All right. We should be live now. And it is streaming on YouTube. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Lieutenant. And with me is my other host, Paul Chafin. How's it going, Paul? Kentucky Dogman Project.
I'm good, man.
And with us today from Dogman Encounter Radio's episode 53, everyone welcome Abe Sias. What's going on, Abe?
How you doing, Lieutenant Paul? I'm doing great today.
Good,
I'm good, brother.
Good. So, I know you and I got together the other day. We had us a good long conversation. We'd like to hear some of your experiences. You had some Dogman encounters, and we'd like to hear and talk with you a little bit about your encounters and some of the stuff that you have experienced, man. And maybe ask you a few questions and see if you have any takes on some of the stuff that we've encountered and see what you think.
Okay.
So if you want to start out with telling us about your first Dogman encounter, man, the floor is all yours.
I've had so many encounters that for a very long time since I was young. I witnessed something. I'm a spiritualist, but I knew medicine women, and I would see the works that we do. My brother was very ill when he was I was, I think, 3 and he was like 4, and he was always hallucinating, seeing snakes and spiders, and he would catch real high fevers, just like in the 70s. And the doctor said that he was going to die, so they couldn't find a cure for him. So there was a medicine woman in Mexico that she said that she would heal him, but if she healed him, that I would have to stay with her for 6 months in Mexico with her. So that's exactly what happened. I was there when she healed him. She took him into her room. Her room was a hut, and the floor was made out of dirt. And she had a fire on the ground, and she grabbed an egg and she started rubbing the egg on him. And he had a fever and all that kind of stuff, seeing things.
Right.
And she rubbed his egg on him on his arm. He had an arm that was like this, and his leg, he would walk with a limp. She rubbed the egg on him, and she cracked the egg, and a little baby chick came out of the egg, and he had a broken wing and a broken leg. But when she did that, my brother became better. All the things that was happening to him stopped. The hallucinations, the fevers, everything stopped. So they left, and I stayed there. I remember staying there with her because when they left, I would see her what she would do, because she would keep me in the room with her, and she had a little bed for me, and she would bring people that were being spiritually afflicted, and that's why I always talk about maintaining the Love Foundation and stuff like that. But
Right.
I see the people they were coming sick, and she would lay them she had like a little table, like an altar, like made out of stone, and she'd be healing them with her hands, and I would see her take out snakes, scorpions, stuff like that out of their bodies with her hands, spiritual healing. And at times I would see these figures, whether people want to call them dogmen or whatever they want to call them, these dark shadow figures or Nephilim.
Yeah.
This about a Nephilim. I would see them come out of their bodies, and through the fire that she had in her hut, I could see the shadows leaving the hut, and she would turn around and ask me, because I understand English and Spanish, and she would ask me, did they leave? And I would point where they were at, how they were leaving out of the room. I guess she couldn't see them, but since I was still a kid, and we're children of God, I had the ability to be able to see spiritually. So I helped her do a lot of healings like that. I remember going to the market with her, and as I was going with the market to go buy like corn or to go buy beans to make beans, all the people would go away from her because of the works that she does. They were afraid of her because of the healings that she would do, and sometimes some of the works that she did, if somebody put something bad upon somebody, a spell or the sin, because that's what it is, a spiritual battle that's
Right.
happening right now, and it's been happening for years. they send something bad, a bad omen towards somebody. Well, if somebody's protected or they have somebody there to protect them and fight it and rebuke it, right? Or in Jesus' name, it sends it back to the sender. And after 6 months of being there, I was in an outdoor restroom, and I remember a woman saying my name, and she said "mijo," which means son, and she was crying, and it was my mother. And I didn't recognize her, you know. It's like I was looking at her like, "Who's this woman?" 6 months had passed by, you know, and then I remember I went up to her, she hugged me, and she was crying, and the woman, she was a medicine woman. She was an old woman. She was like 89 or 90. She was from the 80s, like the 1980s. She was old. She
Right.
uh, she wore like whites, and she had bullets like in the times of Pancho Villa. She had a patch on her eye because she was missing an eye. But she was a good woman. She had a good heart, and she wanted me to stay there with her. But my mom still brought me back to the states, you know. But we kept, I guess, the part of the bargain was for my brother to get healed. You know, he's older now and he's done better. But at the same time, you know, when you're being attacked spiritually, you know, there's a chance that whatever attacked you once can come back at you and it can cause problems in your life. So that's why
Right.
one of the things I would say is I was Matinda left innovation. But I wanted to share this with you because from that is when I started getting, I call it, you know, maybe some people might call it a curse, but I call it spiritually blessed because with those gifts, I was able to see many things spiritually. Like one one example of this disembodied Nephilim that I'm talking about, which I believe has to do with dogmen, Bigfoots, and other cryptids. I was with my grandfather. I was 5. He was already in his 80s, and we had 2 chicken coops. And we had gotten the eggs of the chicken of one of the chicken coops that was going to another one that was bigger. It was like made out of logs, and it was like a little house, but made out of logs.
Hmm.
And you could hear the chickens clucking real bad, like something was in there. So my grandfather, he grabbed a stick and he said, "I'll be right back. You stay here by this tree. It was a blackberry tree. You stay right here. I'm going to go in there and change the possum that's in there. He's trying to kill the chickens." That's what he said. So he walked in the chicken coop, and next thing you know, I hear him screaming. He's screaming and he's in pain, you know. And I was small, 5 years old, so I grabbed a stick and I said, "I'm going to go." In my mind, I'm like, "I'm going to go protect my grandfather, you know, hit the possum or whatever." So as I walked into the cabin door, what I seen was my grandfather elevated up in the air. There was this big, dark figure with red eyes. You know how people talk about the Mothman?
Yeah.
Um, there was this big, dark figure with red eyes, and my grandfather was a big man. My grandfather was a like 6'2", 6'3". He was elevated in the air, and scratches were coming out of it. Just scratches on his body were just coming out of nowhere. You know, nothing was hitting him. Just scratches were coming on his body. You know, so I'm seeing this. You know, and I'm standing there, and then that figure of what I know now to me to be the disembodied Nephilim, right? Because they're like in spirit form. He looked at me, I looked at it, and it dropped my grandfather, and he comes charging at me. But when he comes at me, he's not coming at me in physical form. He's coming at me in the form of smoke, a black smoke, and it's coming at me hard. And I'm looking at it, but I'm not afraid because within me, you know, I feel the presence of God, you know, because I believe in God. And as he was coming towards me, he just did a detour and went out the window. As it went out the window, it broke the window and left a little hole in the window. And the smoke, right, because it was a smoke form, just went out the window.
Yeah.
So by the time my grandmother and my uncles got there, because they heard him still screaming because he was in pain from all the cuts he had, they said, trying to find out what happened. And I was telling them, well, what I was telling him was the black bulto. Black bulto means the dark shadow, because that's
Yeah.
what I've seen. And my grandfather, he just looked at me and put his head down because I feel that he already knew he was being spiritually attacked or demonically attacked. And he just looked at his wife, which was my grandmother, and he said, "No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. It was the possum, you know." But I would see all kinds of activity like that after I spent the time with the curandera. You know, I was blessed to be able to see things, and it's I still have this gift. It's a gift that I have for a very long time. So from that, I've seen so many things. So I want to talk about the dog man now. I just shared their story to compare
Right.
what I witnessed because they have many capabilities, and if they can turn into smoke, they can go invincible, or they can take form of a beastly. They can take form of a beast because they have that ability. Um, there was an encounter I had when I was 15 years old down in the Rio Grande Valley. I used to be in track, and I used to run down the dirt roads because I used to run long distance. So as I was training for that, I would train every summer. Since I was in junior high, I was already in high school. I would train and run down this dirt road. There was one day I was running down the dirt road. I passed an old cemetery. I crossed the Highway 77, and there I started running down the dirt road that led to another cemetery that's over there. So as I was running down this dirt road, it's bright daylight between 5 and 6, 5:30. The sun's out. I'm running, weighing 142 pounds. I got hit by something, and as I got hit, I backed up, because I was running full speed. And when I looked, it was nothing but shit, manure, shit. It was like on my face, on my chest, and I looked up with the eye that didn't have the shit. But I didn't see no airplane. I didn't see nothing in the sky. The only thing that was close to me was the field to the left and the woods to the right. So I'm looking to the woods on the right, and I'm trying to pull the crap out of my eye. And I'm saying, "Who's there? Who's there?" But nobody's saying nothing. And I see a cabin further in there, but there's nobody there. So at that time, I just get the feeling that a present of something that's how should I say, my senses told me get the hell out of there, basically.
Right.
So I did. I left and I went to the cemetery. There was another cemetery, a new cemetery, and I got water from there. And I washed up the poop off my face, and I left my shirt there, and I ran back to the house because that's what I would do. That was a route I would take down that dirt road. So like 2 weeks passed by, and I lost my mother when I was 15 years old. So I was feeling kind of sad that night, and I said, I'm gonna go out there and visit my mom's grave, and pray. So we had a 1956 Ford. So I got in the truck, and I went down those dirt road. That dirt road led to the cemetery. So I went down the dirt road where I got hit with the poop, and I passed that area. So as I turn to the right, there's a ranch, and you can see the lights of the ranch behind me. I'm going 40 miles an hour down the dirt road. So as I'm going 40 miles an hour down the dirt road, then all of a sudden, the two poles that I'm supposed to pass, I'm not passing. It's like I'm looking at the poles, and I'm looking at my speedometer. It says 40, so it went to 45, and the poles I'm not passing the poles. So when I look through the rearview mirror, I see a dark, big figure behind it. As a matter of fact, Paul, I seen an orb just pass right behind you, brother. As we're speaking.
Brother, listen.
The orb right behind you, a big one.
Well, we went to Daniel Boone today to pick up our trail camera as well. That guy Josh had brought a couple of guys with him, and we were on our way back out of Daniel Boone. And that guy, I hadn't really spoke to him all day, and he said he stopped in the middle of the road. And he said, "Man, is your house haunted?" I said, "No." Why? He said, "Because there's something's been following you all day."
Yeah.
I said, "What do you mean something?" He said, "Just a shadow."
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was talking. I seen a big old orb pass right from from your left side behind you and went around. So there's an orb.
Yeah, my mom just passed away about back in October. My dad's dead too, so it's hard to say.
Yes. So I believe their spirits are there around you and watching over you, brother. That's what I sense. The orb I seen was light blue. So light blue is normally good, or the presence of either a family member or angelic. The ones that are dangerous are the red orbs. Those are the ones that can drain your energy and stuff like that. Like I was saying, brother, I turned around. I'm going 40, 45, and it's not moving forward, and I'm looking and when I looked, I seen this big old shadow behind me. I'm not looking, I can't see the ranch behind me because the ranch had light poles and you can see the lights. I couldn't see behind me. I just see something big behind me. And as I'm pushing the gas to 45, it drops my rear end of my truck. So it drops the rear end of my truck. I lose control of the truck. I almost hit the poles. So I drive home and I'm scared as hell because I'm young at that time, 15. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I drive home and my brothers are there and my cousins, and I tell them what happened, because they see me pale from the face. That's how scared I was, I guess. They see me pale from the face, and they want to go look at the truck, because I told them what happened. So as they were looking at the truck, they called me outside and say, "Hey, we want to show you something." So when I went out there, I could smell like a beastly smell around the truck. And when I went to the back of the truck, they showed me that the tailgate was ripped off and it was just hanging. So they believe my story that something picked up the back of the truck. And
Yeah.
what's weird about that is whatever it was that picked it up had to move pretty fast to pick it up from the back. And
Wow.
I've talked to some people that said that sounds like a Bigfoot, and stuff like that, because when they threw the manure or the poop at me, that's something that maybe a Bigfoot might do to get people out of the territory, you know.
Yeah.
That was the experience I had when I was 15, and I really didn't really say nothing to nobody back then. I told but the only people I told was my close friends, and they just laughed about it. They were like, "Oh, it's just in your imagination." I said, "No, I can show
Yeah.
you where I have the shirt with the poop, And this poop that hit me was fresh, it was hot, it's fresh. So
Wow. Yeah.
that was
That.
my one of the first things that happened to me. After that, I stopped running down the dirt roads, and I started just running within the city. I stayed away from the dirt roads because of that encounter. But after that, some of the other things that happened was that at my house, something was coming to my house, and it was banging on the walls. Like it wanted me to come outside. The one time I was working out, I would get off of work at 10:30. I was working at a Walmart, and I went inside to drink some water because I had my weights outside. So when I came back outside the home, I tripped over something. So I'm searching to see what I tripped over, and I touch a head or something. So when I'm touching it, it was a head of a baby donkey that something placed it on my doorstep, and I tripped over it. And I was 15, and all my brothers and sisters were younger than me, so I didn't want them to see that. So I just grabbed the head from the ears and picked it up and took it back to the backyard into the alley and put it underneath some branches we had out there, and I left it in the backyard. Those are the things that were happening after that. And what was that happened to me out there? I could hear there was an empty lot across the street from me, and where I lived, we lived in the outskirt of the little town where there was a cornfield next to us. There was a little irrigation canal also like 3 blocks away, but across our street you could hear somebody growling and yelling, making growl sounds, and you could hear like trash cans flipping over and like it's hitting stuff, banging on wood. So I would go over there during the day to see what I would find, and I would find the trash cans flipped over and stuff like that. And I was like, what was doing this? So, but whatever it was, didn't like me. I know that it didn't like me because it was coming to my home. Uh, the time that it was banging on the walls, my brother and sister were scared, and the only thing I could do is pray. I prayed and I banged on the wall myself, and I said, "I'm not afraid of you." And then the thing started stopping. But I'm just giving you some of the examples of those encounters. At that time I wouldn't see nothing. When the growling, I could never see nothing or movement over there at that time. I would just hear the voices, the growling sound. But there were several incidents that I remember when I was growing up. That uh, there was one time, it's when my grandmother was alive. That outside you could hear all kinds of animals, like different noises, like tigers and elephants, and you could hear like somebody on a wagon and like with a whip, and you could hear the horses. And when we woke up that following morning, there was crap all over the yard, and I'm like, how did this where is all this different sizes of crap? Where did it come from? We had 4 lots. So me and my brother, we're picking up 4 lots of piles of crap all day long. That was on a Friday. And then she made us lock up the fences with chains, and we put wood underneath the fence, so nothing could come in. So then that night, the same thing happened. We're hearing all this noises of animals and all this kind of stuff outside the house. And when we wake up, there it is, poop, crap all over the dang yard. So there we are again, shoveling stuff all day long. But that only happened 2 times that I remember, which to me, I feel like it was more of a spiritual thing because you could hear all these animals, but you couldn't see them, but you could hear them. And then there was the residue that was left over from that was the crap that we had to pick up. In those times you didn't have the technology that we have right now to be able to capture something like that. But the encounters I had, uh, which the one I talked about, episode 53, that happened in Elms Grove in Killeen, Texas. I had moved there. I was in the military. I was in the military. I was stationed for 10 years, from 89 to 99. So when our unit got deactivated in Germany, they sent me to Fort Hood, where I moved there. And in Elms Grove, I moved in there after the military. I moved in there in 2002. That's where I moved into Elms Grove Estates in Killeen, Texas. It's a mobile home park. And the reason I moved into that area is because, my son was barely going to be born. And there was a nice park within the mobile home park where I lived, and a swimming pool. So I said, man, he's going to have fun. He's going to have a park to play with, and then he's going to have a swimming pool. So the first incident that happened there with that when he turned like 5 years old. I think it was 5 years old. He was playing on the swings. On the slides with my friend's daughter, and I was trying to show my friend the creek. The creek wasn't that far away from the slides. So I told him, we'll be right back. I'm going to show her the creek because I wanted to see how beautiful it looked. So I was showing her the creek, and you have water. You can see the water, and the next thing you know, we cannot hear him playing on the slides no more. So we go out of the little bit of woods that was there, and we're looking at the slides, and we can't find them. So we walked to the other side of the park because there's two sides of the park where you can play, and there wasn't on the side of the park. So I walked by the swimming pool. There's nothing there. So I go home, and I asked my sister if my son was there. She said, no, he hasn't come home. So then we all go looking for him, and we're searching him for about, I would say, like 20 to 30 minutes. We couldn't find him. It's fixing to call the police. And as I'm searching, I could see, because my son was a pretty tall boy, and I could see the top of his head in the woods. Only the top, just the hair.
Yeah.
So I took off running. I ran, being paramilitary and everything. I just took off running. When I ran in there into the woods, he's just standing there, and they're side by side, him and my friend's daughter. They're side by side, but they're not saying nothing. I said, son, what are you doing here? And just standing like this, like in a trance-like state. And I said, son, what are you doing here? And he finally says, the man in black called us here. He said, the man in black called us here. So when he said that, I'm thinking that maybe, at that time, I was just thinking, well, maybe it's a person, right? So I start looking everywhere. I'm looking for either somebody dressed in black or an African American, right? Because he said the man in black, So I'm looking, go through the woods, go to the bridge, to the creek, and I searched the whole perimeter, and I can't find nobody. So we go home, and the following day I told my friend, I said, look, if there's somebody living there, maybe a homeless person, bring your camcorder and we're gonna go record. So if we can catch him on camera, because I believe he was trying to take him. Whoever it was is trying to take him because he lured him into the woods. So we went the following day, and I said, "You ready?" She turned on the camcorder, and she was walking behind me, and went into the wood, started walking the path, and she was with a camcorder. Next thing you know, she says, "Oh my God, I think I just caught something," and she turned around and she just took off running out of the woods, scared, So she ran out of the woods. I came back out and said, hey, what's going on? And she said, I think I caught something, Abe. I caught something. So as we're viewing the video later on, you can see where as she's moving the camcorder, there's something there looking at us through the trees. He's looking at us, and he's wearing like something around his neck. It looks like something golden, like an amulet of sort. It's looking at us, and then you can see it go straight down into the ground. You know, it went straight down into the ground. So when that happened, it's like, man, well, that's not a person of what I seen on the on the camcorder. There's something. It wasn't a person. It was something. So I was like, that's not a human being. What I'm seeing there is something that looks like a human being, but the way it looked like it was made out of the vines and the leaves, and but he had an amulet around the neck, so we just left it at that. But then there was many other things that started happening afterwards. What was happening is at nighttime, you could see some kind of movement coming from that wood line. And at first, I thought it was teenagers playing tag, tag or hide and go seek. So I will go out there. I will see them between like 12 and 1 or 2. So I go over there when I'm seeing the shadows running, and I say, and they were as soon as I would get near the swing set, they were running to the woods. It would be like 8 or 9 of them just running to the woods. So I go to the where they ran and say, hey, come behind that bush. I've seen you come behind that bush. So I go in there behind the bush. There's nobody there, And it's like, man, I'll be in my mind. I was like, man, these kids, they're pretty stinky, they're pretty good. They're hiding from me, So I was like, I said, y'all better get home. It's getting dark out here. There could be animals out here. So I just leave them there, So there they go. From my house, I could see the park, and there they are again. The following day, running around. So I go again. I say, hey, y'all need to go home, but there's nobody there. So,
wow.
So those are the things that were happening. So what happened after that was there was one night. I was asleep. My sister lived in the far end of the mobile home, and she come knocking on my door, and she's like, hey, it was like around, it was late already, like 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning. Like, hey, there's something wrong. There's something happening outside. I said, what do you mean? I think a woman is in trouble. So I hear a woman yelling for help. This is my sister. She's like, I'm 50. She's 3, 4 years younger than me. She's outside. She's seen help. I can hear her. Somebody's doing something to her. So I'll go outside, and it's around. This time it happened it was in October. It's already fresh in Texas, and the trees are already falling off the leaves. So I go outside and I hear a woman yelling for help, and she's saying, "Help me!" You could hear her yelling like something bad's happening to her. So I go inside, put on my clothes, and I just grab a bat, and I said, "Well, if somebody's doing something wrong to her, I'm going to try to sneak up on them because where I heard the cry was coming from the woods." So I grabbed my bat, and I started walking towards the cry of help. So I walked back past the slides, past the swing set, and I walked to where the wood line was, and I'm standing in the entrance of the path of the wood line, and I could hear the voice loud coming from inside the woods. So I go grab my bat and I start walking the path, and I'm just being ready to swing the bat to where I'm paying attention to every little thing, like movements and all that, So I'm going there and you could say in recon mode, like in stealth mode, trying to help them. So I go in there, and as I'm walking in there, when I turn around the bend, I could hear the voice louder, and she's saying, I could hear, help me, help me. So as I'm getting close to the voice, I got the bat and I'm fixing to swing because you could hear it that loud. So as soon as I was going to swing, that's it. You don't hear the cry for help no more. So I'm standing there and I bring down my bat and I'm looking to see if I see any movement. I'm not seeing no movement, and I could see across the trees because like I said, the leaves were off the trees, and I could see the club in the corner over there, but it was empty. The parking lot was empty. So I'm there, and it's like, man, something doesn't feel right, So when I turn around, right, when I turn around, it's when it happened that I seen them. The closest one to me, I would say, was like 6 feet away from me, and by the tree. That was the closest one to me. and I could see it right off the bat. It was real tall. I say it was like 8 to 9 foot tall, somewhere around there, or possibly taller. I didn't have a measuring tape to measure. You don't think about that kind of things when you went up in the situation. But the reason I knew there were six is because I could see the eyes. There was the eyes. I could see two, 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 and then to the left I could see two, two, two. So I knew there was six because I could see their eyes, and the eyes were glowing white. So I'm there, and as I'm looking at them, I'm trying to decide what to do. I could run 10 feet behind me and jump into the creek, but then the way they were flanking me, because they were like in 5 meter, probably 5 to 10 meter intervals from each other. So I figured if I go into the creek, this one's to the right are going to chase me in there. If I go to the left to go hit the street to get out of there, the ones that are the way they were positioned themselves was easy access to attack me. So, and I had another choice. I could have hit the first one in front of me with the bat, but I don't think the bat was going to do nothing to it because it was so massive. So the only other thing I could think of is like, you know what, Abraham, take yourself to that place. So I kind of like went into prayer and tried to. It's more like ignoring them, like not acknowledging them, right? So I went into prayer, started saying to our Father, and I said, okay, here we go. The easiest route was to walk the same way in that walked back the same way I walked in. So I started praying to your Father. I was praying to your Father. This one that was right here was looking at me. He was looking down at me, because it's tall. So he's looking down at me, and I see you looking at me. I'm trying to stay like this, but I can see him through my peripheral vision. So I'm walking beside him, and I see him looking his head, and I can see the other ones moving their heads also.
Now, were these flesh and blood, or were these like see-through spiritual?
It's so pitch dark in there, brother, that I couldn't see that they were flesh and blood. I could only see their silhouettes. It was showing me their silhouettes, and they were massive. And as I'm walking, the only thing I remember, and I'm praying within myself, that I kept on hearing them say something to me telepathically, And I believe when I had initially done Dogman Encounters, I had talked to Vic about this. They kept on saying the Holy One, and there was a saying, and I know I was in prayer, but I believe they were acknowledging Jesus Christ. That's what they kept on saying, the Holy One. I was saying the Our Father. So, in a sense of a way, the prayer, when I call upon the Heavenly Father to protect me, if He protect me, I never turned back to look at Him or nothing. I just walked out of there without, like I said, I was trying to ignore Him, and I did. I literally ignored Him, even though I seen Him looking at me. So when I made it home, I walked in the house. My sister said, "What's the matter? Are you okay?" I just didn't say nothing to her. I walked in the room. I see my son lay asleep. I walk straight into the restroom, and I take a shower, man. I take a shower to get any kind of residue off of me, smell of fear or the smell of whatever was out there off of me. That's what I did. The first thing I did. It was scary because I'm just glad that I didn't decide to use violence or try to swing a bat at them. There were six of them. They would have easily, if it was something beastly, it would have attacked me. But because I ran into wildcats, I ran into cougars in the army, and the only thing you do is just kind of stay away from them.
Well, do you think they was trying to get you to come out there by screaming and acting like a woman in distress? Or?
Well, I'm thinking, honestly, being so many there in one spot, this is what I was thinking, brothers. And it's something that I came up with. One of the things that I thought is that, well, what if, because when people try to say maybe there's something real. So what if something else was happening? Like, for example, they were disguising themselves as a woman yelling for help, but maybe she was giving birth to one of them, so many being there together. That's one of the things that I was thinking, that it was just mimicking a voice to hide what was really going on there, So I'm hearing this woman yelling for help, but maybe she was giving birth to one of them. especially with 6 of them being there. You know, it's kind of like when a family member has a baby. There's everybody's waiting to see the baby, right? And that's one of the things that crossed my mind. But then at the same time, it's well, then how come I heard it spiritually? And like I said, I've been blessed to be able to hear and see things like this. So I guess it attracted me there. You know, the spirit it attracted me to the location because I was hearing it. But the thing is, my sister was hearing it too.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. So I was going to say your sister heard
Yeah.
it too.
she heard it first. You know,
So they might have been just trying to get anybody to come in there and
Yeah.
lured.
yeah.
And still to this day, I was like, how come they didn't do nothing to me right there and then? And the only thing I can think of is because I was praying. Because that's the only thing I did. I didn't try to fight them. I didn't run. I just prayed to protect myself. You know, and
You
they kept.
know, one thing I've heard is, and I've heard this from numerous people, is when these creatures, whether it's Bigfoot, Dogman, when they speak telepathically, and the few people I've talked to have agreed on this, they've had years of research under their belt, and they both agreed when I spoke to them individually that when they're speaking to you telepathically, it's usually an indicator that that creature's possessed.
Yes.
So you may have seen a dog man, you may have seen the silhouette of a dog man, but you could have been dealing with something totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because at that time I would do spiritual work like on Light Worker Life Feeds and Light Workers of the World. I would pray for people. But at that time, I didn't know nothing about no dog man. I think somebody has seen. I talked about my experience on one of those feeds, and somebody sent somebody my way to get in touch with Vic Kondo. But because I heard what had happened to me, so that's how I got to do the thing with Vic Kondo. But I didn't know nothing about. I knew about Bigfoot, from when I was a kid, but like from the $6 million man, I know you remember the show that showed a Bigfoot there one time, but I really wasn't into or maybe about the Loch Ness monster, but I really didn't know really too much about cryptids or nothing like that, Bigfoots, or I didn't even know there was such a thing as a dog man, uh, till people started talking about it, and I got into this group of the cryptids. But what started happening after that, and this was weird, is that they started coming to my home, right, where I live. Because, like I said, I didn't live that far away from the park, and they started hitting my mobile home. They were hitting my mobile home. The dents that were up on my mobile home were high. They were pretty tall. They were high up on top of the mobile home, where you could see the dents. But they would come urinate on my doors. It was two entrances, the front door and the sliding door. They would come urinate on it. They would go urinate on my truck. I believe they messed up my front door. They try to, but you see, I will keep my house blessed. So that's what I was trying to figure out, if what I was dealing with was something that was in the flesh or in the spirit. Like I said, like maybe a Nephilim or something that can take form of something. Some of the things that I would hear also from there was drum beats. I could hear sometimes drum beats, and then I would say, well, maybe it's just the water lines is making the noise like of a drum beat. So I started thinking of it. Well, maybe it's a possible shapeshifter or skinwalker, because I had some incidents with what I believe to be a skinwalker. There was one night there was a dog. My dogs were barking outside, and I went outside. There was a fox. The fox was looking at me, and I was looking at the fox, but it wouldn't move. He wasn't afraid of me. So I'm looking at the fox in my yard, and it starts walking, and I start walking behind it. And as it turns around my neighbor's mobile home, and I go behind it, it's not a fox no more. What I see is an old man. He's bent over like this. He's barefooted. You can see his legs, and he's got a fur on his head, and it's the fur on his head to his back. So I walk up the street right behind him, probably like 10 feet away from him, and I follow him out of the park, out of the mobile home park. So he goes out there into the open, there's a quad, a big quad, and there's woods there. So I'm walking behind him. He's walking on the street. So he goes along the fence line, and he takes a left, and I see him go behind a bush. So he's behind the bush. I'm looking to see if he's going to come from behind the bush. Next thing you know, I see a Saint Bernard run from behind the bush and goes behind another bush. As I'm looking to see if the Saint Bernard or the old man are going to come back behind the two bushes, I see a bird fly. But I never saw the old man with a fur. It would seem to be the fur of a coyote or something on his head, or I didn't see the Saint Bernard come out. So I felt that was like a shapeshifter or a sword. And maybe that's what I was dealing with. When you're going through these things, you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. You're trying to find some kind of answers. And I think that's where what happens when you're trying to find some kind of answer. There's curiosity, right?
Yeah.
So if there's curiosity, what does anybody do when they have curiosity and they want to find answers?
Research.
Yep.
But when they research, what do they start doing? Because when they're doing with these things that are happening around them, like what's happening to me, that I'm seeing all those things, there's one thing that everybody does. They start believing to what they're seeing, right? They start believing that, oh, that's a dogman. Oh, that's a Bigfoot. That's a shapeshifter. Maybe that's a Nephilim, because they're believing what they're seeing. But when they're believing what they're seeing, there's something else that they're doing at that time. They're giving it power, right? They're giving it power, which is an opening. It's an opening for something. And you probably know what it is. What that opening is an opening. It either spiritually attacked or physically attacked. Well, that's what happened to me. After that happened, not even a couple of months later, the things that started happening to me is I could be walking to the store and I could hear footsteps running right behind me, like something running at me, and next thing you know, I'll go flying 4 to 5 feet, tumbling, and I get up in a defensive, ready to fight, but there's nobody there to fight. Or I get shot from the front and I go fly 4 or 5 feet backwards and tumble, but there's nobody there. But I could hear something running towards me. So what I'm doing is like, show yourself, you want to fight me like whatever, however you want, whatever form you want, fight me physically, right? They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it that way. So I would pray daily, and I was trying to figure out what can I do to fight them, because they was spiritually draining me and that was physically causing harm to me. But I wouldn't say nothing to nobody because nobody would understand, And to me, it felt like it was a form of they was trying to destroy me, man, like a form of possession, or they just wanted me dead in some kind of way because they were attacking me in every kind of way.
Yeah.
One time I was walking down the quad the same way where that skinwalker was walking, because I was going to do exercise. It was a big quad that you could walk 10 times around it, and it's walking like around 8 miles. And that's what the exercise I would do. And there was one morning that I was walking that route, and I just feel a lot of pressure on top of me, man. And I get dropped to one knee, and my head starts bending down inward like this, and I'm down to the ground, and I start praying the Our Father because I don't know what's going on. I can't see because my head is nearly to my chest, like somebody's holding me down. So as I start praying, I feel lighter, and I was able to get up. But when I got up, I was very weak, and I stumbled home. And I fell asleep all day. I woke up around 5:30, and I was looking at my phone, and I guess my phone, when I got dropped, my phone I had it on my left hand, and it got a picture. I got a picture, and I'm gonna share it with y'all after this. I have a picture where there's things around me. It's clear, but you can see shadows around me, and that's the same time. That was around the time that I got dropped. So there's definitely something there, and you can see black things around me. Like there's a lot of them, and you can see some where it's coming from the sky, coming down on me. So whatever it was came from up on top. I believe in the Bible it talks something about a void where there's some dark entities that it could come from the sky, or some people believe that the hell is in the sky right now is like the hell. So, but I got a picture of that when I got attacked.
Wow.
like I said, I was going through so many things that I didn't know what to believe.
Right.
So what I did, I got tired of everything. I said, what am I doing wrong that I keep on getting attacked like this? Another thing that happened, uh, me and my nephew, he was trying to join the military. You know, I was in the military. He was trying to join the military. I was giving advice. It was late at night, and my nephew, we're sitting in the front in the house of in the mobile home in the front. We had a picnic table, so we're sitting there, and he said, there's somebody picking over Miss Evelyn's SUV, you know. And when I looked, I could see the head of something, and it picked down. So we thought somebody was trying to break into her home, and she lived right beside us. It's like maybe like a 10-foot. It's not that far away. The mobile home from where our mobile home was. So we ran that ways, and we seen something walk, cut through your yard through the fence, went out to the other neighbor's mobile home because all the mobile homes are like back to back. So we go back to our house, and we're looking to the other street where there's light, and I see something crawling low to the ground. And I said, "Man, that's a big dog." You know, that says it looked brown, so that's a big dog. And I was like, "That's not no dog." And then it seemed like it got on like in fours, you know, from a low crawl to a higher. And I said, "Well, maybe that's a deer." And I'm looking. I said, "That's no freaking deer. What the hell is that?" And it was real long. Next thing you know, it stood up. Boom! It stood up. And it started running on his started running. So we went parallel to it on the other side of from our street to the street. We started following it, and when he ran past the mobile home behind us, I think the brown one went a different direction. But what we seen by the tree, I believe to be the alpha male. It was standing by the tree, and that one was huge. It was standing up already, and it was massive. So when that alpha male seen us, it started running down the street, and it was huge. It was like 500 pounds, massive, nothing but muscle. I mean, you could see the muscle just bulking out of it.
Yeah.
The legs were inward. The legs, the upper torso legs were long, but then the legs were curved inward. And the way it was running, it was more of like a bounce. It was and a long stride and a bounce, but it was just using his legs. It wasn't using no arms or nothing because arms it had him up here like this.
Oh, kind of like a dog begging for a treat.
Yeah, he's had his
Yeah.
arms like this, and he was running just with pure power of the legs. And
Wow.
the upper torso was you could see the long length of the upper torso, and the neck was kind of long. Then I could see the face, and he kept on looking like this at us sideways to see we're following it, you know. And as I was running after it on the other side, and my nephew was in front of me because he was faster and he was younger. I'm thinking to myself, why the hell am I running after this thing, you know?
Yeah.
So he ran past the last mobile home into the park, and then you could hear it run into the creek because you could hear the branches cracking, you know, where it ran into the creek. But we didn't follow it into the park. But I
So,
believe that was the alpha male.
so out of all your encounters that you had, have you had any primal fear, any dread that's happened with these dogman encounters?
Well, I know that there was a lot of animals missing around the neighborhood. I would find tails of cats and dogs, and sometimes raccoon tails. You know, of critters in the park. Um, I guess the fear that it wasn't really fear. It was more of trying to figure out why were they coming to me. I was trying to figure out why they were coming to my house messing with me, or I was trying to figure out because why they lured my son into the woods. You know, when I had the encounter with him in the woods, I said, well, that's what was trying to cause some harm. So now they're gonna face me, right? Because anybody that loves their children, they're gonna protect their children. So I felt I had to deal with it because if he goes through me, then he's gonna come after the rest of my family inside my home.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more. I had to prepare myself spiritually, and at the same time, I was ready, even physically, because sometimes I would carry a backpack. In the backpack, I had machetes in it, so I was ready to fight whatever, whether it be spiritual or physical. So I was ready, but I knew that they would get mad if you're walking through their territory. They will put logs and block the path, or they'll put a dead animal in the path, in the middle of the path, to let you know, hey, this is our territorial. There was a friend of mine that lived before all the things that were happening to me. There was a friend of mine that lived there, and she couldn't see at nighttime. She would walk her dog, and she told me that I go to her house, and she was scared on the phone. She said that when she wanted to take her dog outside, that she heard something growling, and they threw a piece of log, and it hit her mobile home.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran to her house, and she said that her dog had got scared and ran inside the house. She had a big dog, and it ran inside the house. So I went out there to check it out with a flashlight. You could see the log where it made the big old hole in the mobile home. And I said, "Where did the growl come from?" He said, "It came from that tree, and it's right by the edge of the wood line." So I go there, and I was like, with a flashlight, anybody there, but nobody was there. But she was one of the people that I knew that experienced something there. And also there was an old lady that lived right at the edge of the park. She was at park, had been there like 20 something years, and she told me not to go in there, not to go into that path because there was something there. She said not to go into those woods because there's something evil there. I was young, she was old. I figured, well, just an old person trying to scare me.
Yeah.
And she would tell me, keep your children away from. She even said, keep your children away from the swings that are there. There were some swing sets nearby there. I know my boyfriend's. I mean, my sister's, my nephew's girlfriend. She was playing on the swing set, and she came running to the house, crying, saying that somebody was. I said, what happened? She said she was on the swing set. And then she's saying, that's what she said. She said, I seen a man in black, and he was behind the bush and calling me to go to her. He said he was saying my name. So he was calling her to go into the woods. When I hear all these stories about children missing and they're in the woods, makes me wonder if somebody lures them in there, and that's it. Just like that, they're gone.
I mean, a lot of times these kids are just standing there and then they're gone. Like literally. You turn your back and they're gone.
Yeah, that's what happened to me with my son. If I'm glad that I found him, because only God knows if I wouldn't have seen the top of his head, what would have happened,
Right.
I've never been, I don't not think that there's spiritual sides of this. I based, my, not belief, but just, I had to have a starting point. So, what I seen looked like flesh and blood to me,
Yeah.
So that's just where I've started at with this research, and I'm not the type of person that's just going to deny evidence if it don't line up with what I believe.
Right.
I'm going to go with where it takes me, whether it be if I see something cloaking, and right now in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten orbs coming out of trees down here at the river, not out of the tree, but something in the tree. Very strange looking, man.
Yeah, what it is the limestone, brother, that's by the creeks. There's limestone, and it attracts spirits. The limestone attracts spirits, and and you get the river as a conductor. So that they go to areas where they can get energy, whether it be the creek or where there is a power line. They get the energy to manifest themselves, or even if there's a group of 4 or 5 people and they have to drain their energy just to get this energy to manifest itself. That's how you see them, because it to manifest themselves, And I understand what you're saying, because what I seen, there was another time where I was sitting in the park bench and I talking to my nephew in the park, and the big tree behind us, the branch breaks, right? So you just hear some land behind us, and as I look to the left, I seen something land on his legs, and he's standing right there looking at me. And it doesn't look like the dogman that I've seen. This one looked different. It's standing there. This one looks like some form of a cat of some sort, and you can see the spots on it. But it's standing up, and it looks at me, and it turns to the left, and it runs into the creek. He runs into the creek through branches, and then he comes back into the park, and he runs straight down the park towards that section where I had my encounter. that's why it's kind of very confusing for me because when it broke the branch, it had to be the weight of whatever it was, right? That broke the branch. But it's confusing when you're trying to figure out what you're dealing with, especially for example, when they come banging on my door or my house, and I go outside, there's nothing there, or when I was getting hit by a nursing force, and there's nothing there, but I got the bruises, I got the scratches, so it was leading me to believe that what I was going through was a spiritual attack, right?
Right.
So that's why we're praying because I, one of those six figures that I've seen, it never attacked me. When I seen it running down the street, it never attacked me. But I believe when I started believing what I was seeing to be something real, that's when that attacked me. And it came and attacked me in spiritual form, and which I couldn't see when I was getting attacked. So I said, what am I doing wrong? What do I have to do to stop this? So I said, well, you know what? I think I have a lot of unforgiveness. I have to forgive people. I have hatred towards some people. I have vengeance towards some people. So I had to forgive these people truthfully, because I was trying to find a way. I was getting tired of getting beat up, man. So
Yeah.
I forgave these people, and
Uh,
the day that I forgave, this what happened. The day that I forgave, that night, I went to go lay down in bed. Next thing you know, I see three of them standing in my room, uh, and they're talking to me telepathically. They're showing me images. They said, "We're going to show you something." They're talking to me telepathically, and they're showing me images of where they come from. And where they come from was a place called Sinai, right? So they're showing me the images of the people they torture in there, which they're showing me where the flesh comes off the people, and then they go let the flesh come back on the people and torture them, reoccurring torture in that way, like everlasting torture. They're showing me this. And as I'm there, and I already knew I had already forgave the people, this is what they tell me. We want you to do something. And if you don't do it, so we're going to come after your son. That's what they said. And is this what we want you to do? So we want you to kill yourself. Basically, they wanted to
wow.
to commit suicide,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes when people are going through something and they don't understand, right? They commit suicide. Some people commit suicide. How many people have committed suicide? Many people, because they're going through something that they don't understand. They're afraid to talk to people about it, so they keep it to themselves, right? So that's how they
Yeah.
commit suicide. So, but I knew that I had already forgiven, and I know God is a forgiving God. So this is what I said to them. First of all, my son is protected by the Heavenly Father. And second of all, I take authority over you. I tie, bind, and rebuke you in Jesus' name. When I said that, they just faded out, went out of my mobile home, and all the things that were happening to me stopped because I took authority over them. I didn't believe in them no more. I didn't give them more power. They gave me the answers that I wanted to know, because I would always say, well, what am I being attacked by? Well, I found out it was by this unseen spiritual force. There's a lot of people that don't want to believe in God. There's a lot of people that don't believe in demons or other things, disembodied, the Nephilim, or these things, but these things do exist also. And they want to take those things out of perspective, out of the picture, and they just want to just see it as, well, look, it's just something that's real. It's something that's here, materialistic.
Well, that's like I told. I've talked to a lieutenant before and told him, it's either religion or financial reasons, or it's both. Is why the government, it's either going to prove that God is real 100% and let people know what kind of celestial beings we truly are, instead of this depressed, tax-paying, work all week mentality that everybody has.
That's what it is, brother. When this coronavirus started happening, and they wanted people to be like this, that's a form of bondage. That's bondage. They don't want you to speak. Facebook, they want you. You can't say whatever you're thinking or saying because somebody reports you. Next thing you know, you're banned. I just came out of a ban of almost 8 months. I couldn't go live on Facebook because of what I talk about. I couldn't do nothing. you know, and people just want trying to micromanage you, or they want you to just to see it their way, even though their way might not be the right way. Or
See, and that's one reason why a lot of people say the government is involved, because it's all propaganda. You go on, you say, "Oh, I seen a dog man, flesh in the blood." The government's involved. Once they start saying that, then my Facebook don't work. There goes my phone acting haywire. And it very well could be that we're all being monitored. I mean, it's so easy to get an IP address and hack into something.
oh
China's
yeah,
hacking it, you know.
I'm
you
sure
know,
I
but
am.
that's to believe you, brother, because I've seen him in the flesh. There's
Yeah.
another thing that I noticed too. You're talking about government. I remember one time in that area when what happened to me. Right a little bit after that, I could see this black choppers flying in that by the wood line with the big old spotlights, and I've seen soldiers coming out of those woods with their night vision, coming out of the woods into the park with their night vision, and they took up their night set and put it on the picnic table, and I'm witnessing this, and they're dressed in black, and then they put on the night vision and they go back into the woods. But you can see the shoppers flying low, and at times you could hear like a low whistle, you know, like the low pitch whistles that they use for dogs.
Yeah.
You could hear it, and you know, it could be a lot of things. The government, I think, the government is involved in a lot of things. You know, one of the things that I thought about was uh, this army that they're trying to create with possibly dogmen. You know, that's one of the things that had never crossed my mind, because when I was stationed on Fort Hood, and I seen some stuff on Fort Hood. I was coming down the tank trail. We didn't want to stay out there, so I was taking the tank trail from Clabber Creek back to Fort Hood. We're driving the tank trail. Tank trail is a dirt road, so we're driving. We have our night vision. It's a nighttime, and I'm the TC, and my driver's got his night vision. Driving, and I'm looking to the night vision, and because then when you're on Fort Hood, you have to have all your lights off and you have your blackouts. So you know that's how you're supposed to be training out there. So we're heading on back, and next thing you know, you see something crossing in front of our tank as we're going on the road. You know, as we're rolling, you cross in front of our tank, and it's changing patterns. Like it's got some kind of cloak, and you can see something changing pattern, and it's tall. My driver hit the brakes, and we stopped. Almost hit the sides, and I turned. We're not allowed to have weapons with loaded weapons on base. So I grabbed my pick handle. I got off, and I'm looking, for trails on the because of those tank trails, because the tanks are heavy. The path were like powder. So I'm looking for footprints or something, and I can't find nothing. And my driver was scared because he passed right in front of him. He saw it closely because he's in the very front of the tank. So he was scared, and I was like, you know what? Let's get the hell out of here. And we went back to base, and we just looked at each other, and so we're just going to keep it to ourselves, because if we say this to anybody, they're not going to believe us, you know. So we just kept it to ourselves. But I seen this what I seen there on Fort Hood seemed to be reptilian, the way it looked, and it was changing pattern, kind of like a chameleon of some sort. But to me, it looked like a cloak, or it's possibly that maybe the military has its cloaking devices that could use them and you can't see them. It's possible. I don't
Well,
know.
we live in a time right now where, with just the push of a button,
Yeah.
or one plane, we can end whole cities.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't understand what the need for super foot soldiers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't. Unless they're going to use them on us or something. I don't know.
I think they use them for special missions, special op missions, kind of like they used to use the Navy SEALs and stuff like that. They use them on special missions to go to certain areas where maybe the situations are bad in that area, where the life expectancy of a unit going in there, that there are going to be more casualties than people surviving. So instead of Americans dying, they're sending. If the government is involved in this, they're saying that super soldiers. We call them. We could call them super soldiers of sort, because they're being trained by the military, right? Maybe that's why I seeing them, because Killeen, Texas, Fort Hood is right by Killeen, Texas. So maybe they let them run around with what do you call them, where they can track them. Like they have those chips where we could put in our dogs and we could track where they're at with those chips, satellite. Maybe this dogman or Bigfoots, they have these trackers and they know exactly where they're at and they track them that way.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah, and that it's real obvious that they do, because in the event that I've heard that one's been killed, prime examples, Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah.
One was killed, and next thing you know, two guys in suits show up, and that's it. There's nothing else of the matter on file. There's no records of it at all. So you can't tell me that that's these two guys. That's what that is. I'm not going to say the word, of course, but they got to have some kind of tracking device. They got to know where these things are in order to show up on the hood.
Yeah. The government, they have so many agencies that people don't know about. I heard about the Men in Black. I've heard about those, and I remember there was one time when this is what happened when I was going through Elms Grove. Is there was like 5 police squad cars, and they were chasing somebody that was running by the trees, and they had the spotlights on. You could see a dark shadow running back and forth. They were trying to capture whatever it was, and it was running so fast that they couldn't capture it. So they were chasing it all throughout the park along the wood line, and they finally went into this other woods. And I went up there to check it out, and the policemen were talking with each other, and I heard them. This is what they said. He said, "I know what I seen," and he said, "I know what I seen, but we're not going to tell the chief about this because he's not going to believe us. But what they seen is, I believe, a dog man. But they said they wasn't going to say nothing about it because they were going to make fun of him. Yeah. So they didn't pursue into the woods. What happened is one of our neighbors said that there was a peeping Tom looking through. She was in the shower. There was a peeping Tom. But what they found, it wasn't a peeping Tom. It was something else. But they never pursued it. And then like a couple of weeks later, that's when I start seeing those shoppers, the black shoppers, and I start seeing black SUVs parking inside the park. Mm-hmm. Parking, they're in the outskirts while walking the quad, like they're trying to find something. It's these black SUVs that I was seeing in the area, but I didn't want to look too much into it, so I just left it alone. But I'm unsure. Like when I made my videos and I talk about things, they probably know who I am, but that's okay. I'm not afraid of I mean, if I overcame what happened to me in the woods, I'm not afraid of no blackened men or nothing like that. I think we lost our brother here.
Yeah, he'll hop back on here in just a second. I got a question from Carlito from Cryptid Paranormal Kingdom. He wants to know, what do you think about cryptids being seen in Afghanistan?
In Afghanistan, I think I talk about this all the time to a lot of people because I was in Desert Storm and I was one of the first ones to pave the way to go into in that area to fight. Even though there was other battles, but yeah, I believe they exist out there. I've heard of Dogman. I've heard of what I understand, some giants, some bat-like creatures also. Right. When I was out there in Desert Storm was when the guys were. I was in the front lines when we were in the battle.
I don't know what happened.
You're back on, brother.
We were following the Medina Republican Guard. I was in the battle on Medina Ridge, right? So as we're rolling forward, I've seen the guys coming out of holes out of the ground like snakes. They're the way they're moving out of the holes. They're not moving normally like a person will come out. They're moving like this out of the holes, and their eyes were like yellowish, reddish. They had a certain glow to their eyes, and to me, it was kind of freaked out. And one of those guys came out of a hole and had the ability to leap on top of my tank. He leaped on top of my tank, and he was standing right in front of. He was looking down at me, and he had a smile on his face. So as he looked up, he had an AK-47. I opened up my hatch, and when I opened it up, because we all carry a personal weapon, I pull up my line, and when I looked down, I shot him in the forehead. He fell over. But yeah, I believe there is a reptilian. I dealt with Nephilim, or the Jinn, should I say, the Jinn. The jinn exists in those regions also, and the Muslims, like in Iraq, the jinn. I've had an encounters with the jinn out there because I went to the desert when I was in the Desert Storm. Then I went
Yeah.
back in '95. And '95 is when I had the encounter with the jinn. When we would burn fires out there because we're guarding the border, we're burning our trash. You could see the jinn standing around the fire. You could see they're real tall. They're like in black, and they
Yeah.
were around the fire flames. And so what they would do is come mess with you. I could be asleep on my sleeping bag. They'll come and it could feel like somebody put an elbow in my throat. And when I look, there's nobody there, or they would pull on my sleeping bag.
Hmm.
They would let me sleep. They would let me sleep, and it was something that was happening daily. I was getting attacked spiritually over there daily. I was pulling guard in the front gate,
Yeah.
and I could hear somebody running. I could hear gear, and I'm looking with my PVS sevens night vision. And when I take them off, I see somebody sitting right beside me. And
Yeah.
it was a gen. So I start praying. That's the first thing I do, start praying. But I seen three of them run right in front of me, past the Constantine wire. Spirits, right? Spirits of some soldiers from over there. Well, the following day, we were doing PT. We were doing PT, running 2 miles, and one of the soldiers broke his leg. His leg went into a hole. Well, when they pull him out of the hole, there was three dead bodies inside the hole, three skeletons of, I guess, dead soldiers. I believe that's what I was dealing with, was maybe the spirits of that. But yes, I believe they're out there, man. It's not just. I don't think it's just dogmen out there.
Did you see that? Did you see that picture I shared? That one had that red eye and that green eye.
Yes, I seen
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I seen that. That was pretty gnarly, man. Pretty gnarly.
The black alpha male dog that I seen, brother, was huge. I would say it was like 9 to 10 feet. I would say 10 to 11 feet. It was real tall. I looked like a midget. I was looking up, and he was looking down at me. He was looking down at me, and it was pretty big. The alpha male that I seen. Like I said, when the only reason I say I don't know if it's encrypted because if you know the Bible or things, this dogmen are in there, they take these forms like dogmen. In the Bible, they talk about the washers. There's something dealing with the washers that are in the woods, that live in the woods, and I think those are the Bigfoots that they're talking about. So there's a lot of things that if you cross over, it's there. It just says it a different way. I believe they've been amongst us for a very long time, living here before us.
Hmm.
Just like reptilians, I believe they exist and they live underground. They're here before us.
Oh, I can tell you very, very well. Let me get my chair adjusted here. But my partner Paul sent me a photo the other day of something he caught in the Daniel Boone. What was that? Back in March, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah,
February, March.
February, March, and we share our stuff back and forth just to get sets of eyes on it to make sure it's not pareidoia.
Yeah.
We're not looking at leaves that looks like to be a creature.
Yeah.
So we send a lot of video, and of course we go frame by frame. And when you go frame by frame on this video, you could see this thing open its mouth and then close it, and then he catches another angle of this thing with his head a different way.
Yeah.
So you can see the other side of the face. Man, it's out there. They're gnarly.
They're tall, man. I believe where the alpha male passed by the main office, they have cameras that are pointing out towards a mailbox, and I know they've seen it. And I tried to talk to them about see if I could see the footage, but they never wanted to release me the footage or let me. They told me to leave them alone. The main office has those cameras around the building,
Yeah.
and I'm more sure they know what's out there. They just never wanted to. Because they have to review the tapes, what's going on in the park. So I'm more sure they've seen it pass right in front of the office, because the cameras are facing right in front of the office, and that's where it passed through. But they didn't want to reveal the footage to me.
Yeah.
And I know that the cameras are live because they even have cameras by the pool also. So they
Yeah.
never wanted to share the footage because, like you, I wanted to know answers. I wanted to know if it was something real. So if it's something real and I seen it pass by the office, it should be in tape that it passed right through the office. So they didn't want to reveal that to me.
So we got another question up, Abe, from Call of the Crow. Wants to know if they know if you're packing a firearm. And we'll let Paul answer that question as well here in just a second.
If we're packing a firearm,
Yeah.
I'm more sure that they probably can smell the ammo. Their senses are very keen, so they can sense that their senses are more keen than what ours are. So I'm more sure they know that you got a weapon, and if they're telepathic, like I believe they are, they can already know what you're thinking before ahead. That's why I clear my mind, so they don't know what I'm thinking, But yeah, I believe they do know. They know if what you're thinking. They know if you're angry. They know you have hatred in your heart. They know anything that because they can sense you. They can read your mind. They know what's within here. They know our spirits.
Well,
Right.
I
And
went
they know
down.
you're coming at them in a threatful manner too. And they never come by themselves. They're never alone. They come in packs. They're in groups.
Yeah.
So where there's one, there's always another. They can
Well,
jerk you to go one other way, and another one come and might get you.
Yeah.
I went down to the river here by myself, not yesterday, but the day before, and I was down there for about 2 or 3 hours by myself now, and this place is covered in them. And I mean, it would be hard. I could go out there with a blindfold on and snap pictures and get pictures of them, But I spent a lot of time there. I had never had no issues, and I got some gnarly pictures too. And the next day, my stepdad decided to go down there with me, and we walked out there. And in the video, you can hear me 39 seconds into being there. I got growled at.
Yeah.
We wasn't walking. I was standing still. Only difference was in yesterday than the day before was my stepdad was with me. I don't know. I had a gun both days. So, but I don't have any bad intent in me. I don't. I'm not there to kill anything. So I think they absolutely know. I don't. Whether you're carrying a knife, a gun, or you're going to try and whoop their ass with nunchucks. I think they know intent.
Yeah, it's like that's how like all the pictures that I've taken that I showed you, brother. This how I took them. I couldn't see them. This during the day. Some of these pictures during the day, I couldn't see them, but I could hear them. I could hear them either running towards me, or I could hear them growling at me. So as soon as I would hear, I had the phone right in my hand because I was trying to keep but how do you say it? I was trying to keep track of what I was going through pictures, right?
Yeah.
As evidence. So if something that happened to me, at least I would have somebody to look at something, some of those pictures, something happened to me because what I was going through. So I was keeping them on my phone just in case something happened to me. There would be some kind of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I would catch my pictures. I could hear something running toward. I couldn't see it through the naked eye, but I would snap a picture of where it was coming from or where the growl was coming from. So when I would get home and the picture would develop on my camera, I look at it, you can see it. You can see it right there where it was growling or growling or running towards me. That's how I cut the images. Not that I could actually see it like I've seen when it was in form running down the street. Like I said, it went from me seeing him physically to not seeing him at all, but I could hear him running or growling. Yes.
Me and you both, man. If something was to happen to us, they'd never find our phone and we'd be chalked up to a bear attack.
Yep. Just like it was in the attack in Elgin, a few days ago?
Yeah.
Chalked up to a bear attack. The lady lived. She described of what to be a big dog, what she described, and they covered it up saying it's a big bear. And it caught so much media attention. Of course, why are you going to give so much media attention to a damn bear attack?
Somebody put here common. So a question about the military and dogman. I believe the military knows a lot of things, and when you're in the military, they want you to not to say nothing about whatever you experience out of the military. They want you to keep it quiet, and they can track you down because they have military intelligence that follow you around. They can place somebody in your company, your platoon, or to follow you around, just like out here. They can put somebody to follow you. When I go to the VA, sometimes I get followed by certain people that work for the government, and they're just following me around, and they come and bump into me on purpose just to see what I'm going to say or do. But I ignore them because I already know what they're about. But yeah, they do exist, and I believe the military knows a lot more than they say, because they're only allowed to say certain things.
Well, I mean, if you know, if it's like I'm kind of with you, I don't necessarily believe that they are Nephilim, but I believe that they are. I believe they are the offspring, I guess you would call it, of Nephilim.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe that they have something to do.
Yeah, like you said, the Nephilim, they're disembodied body, they're spirits, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to find a vessel or a host, right? So if they're using this dogman as a host, how.
Well, when the fallen angels came, when they came down from, when they got kicked out of heaven and come down here, us, we were just like hunter gatherers. You know what I'm saying? They come down here and taught us metallurgy, sorcery. They taught us all that stuff. We didn't know any of that stuff. It
was the Watchers. They were called the Watchers. They were here. They were watching over. God placed them to watch over his people, and they took advantage of that, and they slept with the women, and that's how the Nephilim got created.
Right.
The reason I say a lot of this thing is dealing with the Nephilim is, like I was telling you, that the Nephilim, since they're not God's children, they don't have an opportunity to make it into heaven because they're created by the Watchers or the fallen angels, right?
They don't have souls.
They're jealous of mankind. They're jealous of us because we do have the opportunity to make it into heaven. So they're trying to take out as many of us as they can spiritually, right? Spiritually, or if possible, physically. But look how they try to do it to me. They wanted me to take myself out of the picture through suicide.
Yeah.
I mean,
suicide is a bad thing in the Bible. If I were to do that, I would never go to heaven. Right. So that's one soul that they keep. It's a win for them.
Well, we have politicians sacrificing chickens to Moloch. So I mean, for a politician that's that high up, has that much money to be going out, and sacrificing chickens in their backyard.
Yeah, there's so many things that do exist, man. That's why I always talk about all the things that I talk about, because I believe they all exist. Just like right now with this question here with extraterrestrials and cryptid sightings, are there coincidence? I've seen activity when the dog man, and I was seeing this triangle-shaped things up in the air. This triangle-shaped things up in the air, and it was blinking the four corners, and I was seeing little aircraft coming out of it at that time frame of the sightings. And the very top of the pyramid-like aircraft was a blinking light, and it would blink very, very bright. But I believe they all coexist. At first, at one point in time, I thought that the dogmen that I was seeing, or the things, were from the alien ships.
I thought that before too.
That they were like they're out to hunt, like to show the aliens where the people were. That's what I felt like. It's kind of like, if we see it spiritually, it's like a witch with a familiar. I also thought that the dogman was a familiar of a witch, and it was when he was coming to me to visit me, because he was spying to tell the witch of what I was doing. So I've seen it in so many different aspects. I couldn't just see it in one way, but that's what happens when you're trying to find answers.
And I've noticed that in these areas where we research in the Daniel Boone, there's a hiking trail nearby, and there'll be 30, 35 cars there sometimes, parked 20 cars at least parked, along the sides of the road. And on days like that, it's when we have a lot of activity. And, down here at this other place where I'm going now, people go down there and swim all the time. It gets people ride their four-wheelers, they swim, they camp. It's just an old boat dock. You know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing special, but yeah.
In 1975, because we was talking about aliens, but extraterrestrials, they're having something in common. In 1975, there was a lot of activity happened down in the Rio Grande Valley. What was happening? There was something in the air breaking the barrier, the boom. It was like boom, boom, boom. And then what started happening is they started finding mutilated cattle. It was cattle that was cut in pieces and it had no blood in it, and there was a lot of dead animals. When the UFO sightings were happening, that was happening to the cattle and to goats, and there were some people that were being attacked by some humanoid creature, kind of like a that was attacking people down there, and they were calling it the Big Bird. But all this was happening at the same time frame in 1970, I believe, not 74, 75.
Yeah.
All this was happening in unison. So yeah, it's a mixture of everything. It's kind of like, to me, like a portal, or portals are being opening, and all these things are coming out and just running havoc. Because all the things are being spotted at the same time. But I noticed that, back in 19, is dealing with this big bird that was attacked a guy. He tried to pick him up, tried to take him,
Yep.
and then he started attacking a lot of other people. And there was all these animals that were being mutilated. And as far as I know, remember one time, what happened to me when back home was I was walking to my aunt's house, and it was nighttime, and I could feel something behind me. As I looked, I could see something. I seen this men. They looked like men, but the face was of a dog. And they were walking through the yards, jumping the fences, and the face was like of a beast, but the body was of a man. And this is like this happened like in 1980. I think it was like 1980, 86. No, 85 or 86. So the closest thing to me was a church. So I go to the church, and I go by the church is the house of the priest, and I'm knocking on the door of the priest, and the priest said, How can I help you?" And I told him that something was chasing me. So he goes and takes me in the church, and we'll go into a room. His name was Father Ralph, and he's there, and I tell him what was happening, that something was chasing me, and he had the face of a beast, like a dog. And he's looking at me, and he said, "Son, maybe it's just your imagination. Maybe it's all here and all this." And as he was saying that, when he wore glasses, the door where we went into the church, it opened, and through his glasses, I could see him behind. Through the glasses, I could see them behind me. There was three of them, and the door closed, and he told me to leave, to get out of there. He didn't even help me. He told me to leave. He got scared. So luckily, I did the sign of the cross, and I made it to my aunt's house. And after that, he was gone. He wasn't even there no more. He left the church. But I witnessed something like this, So back then, back in this is like in 1985, 86.
Wow.
There's so many things that we can look at in so many different angles, and just I wish that maybe one day, just like a Bigfoot, or that somebody get evidence. Like, I'm talking about capture one, or there's some people that want to kill him, but to this day, I don't think nobody really has captured a Bigfoot. That I know of for so many years, or that nobody's really captured a dog man for so many years. Makes me wonder, because they disappear in thin air, man. How they're gonna disappear in thin air?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, you kill it, they just come get it.
They ran into the creek, but there's some that I've seen that just disappear in thin air, like boom, vanish in thin air. Like, are they going into a dimensional portal? Like I've seen those dark shadows. There was one day when I lived in Elms Grove, these dark shadows. They were coming to my house, coming into my house, and I was blessing the home, fighting them spiritually. Well, I chased one of those black shadows out of my home, and it went straight into a tree, man. It like hit inside the tree, right? And I said, "I see you there. I see you there." And I start praying there, Father. And he jumps out of the tree and goes into another tree, literally into the tree. And as I say, identify yourself. I'm saying, identify yourself. He jumps out of the tree and he starts flying in the air, and he's laughing. He's laughing like a man. It's going up in the air, and he goes up into the trees, and he's laughing like a man. It's like, it's when I was dealing with all that I didn't know whether to believe. When you see that kind of stuff, it's like, well, what do we got here? We got something that's seen a creature that's running. It's got the ability to break a branch. It's got the ability to hit me. But now I'm seeing this other thing that's got the ability to go into the trees and fly in the air and laugh like a man. What are we dealing with here? You know?
Yeah. Like Paul was saying a while ago, if you happen to kill one, chances are you're not going to make it out with it. Prime example, I interviewed Old Bear from Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot a few weeks ago. And he was telling me he was helping a gentleman with a problem on his farm with Bigfoot. Bigfoot were coming around. It was harassing his family, his home. So Old Bear went over there to help them guys. And he knows a way to get rid of Bigfoot off your property without harming them permanently. I'm not going to tell y'all.
Yeah.
So he set everything up. What he set up, they happened to elude it. And they were sitting off the back porch. It was completely dark. They seen 6 silhouettes coming out the tree line. And when they seen 6 silhouettes, they seen red eyes. Well, it was 4 of them. And the youngest guy there, they were all armed. The youngest guy there drew up and he told them, don't shoot. Don't shoot. They're coming closer. And of course, he had some other methods in his pocket and he was waiting for them to get a little closer. He had everything strategically planned out. Well, as they got closer, this guy got scared. He fired 1 round into one of those Bigfoots in the face and he dropped it. He killed it. What happened after that was pure hell. They all pretty much had to run for their life. Old Bear said when that Bigfoot dropped and hit the ground, the alpha male went over there, picked him up like he was 20 pounds, flung him over his shoulder, and walked into the woods with him. So that's just a prime example. Dogman, I really don't know if you were to kill one, how they would react. Now, I know if you listen to the guy on Vic's show who actually went hunting for a dog man and his buddy shot one at 600 yards, what happened after he shot it's probably a prime example of what's going to happen if you do drop one. You do kill one. Because there was, I think, 2 or 3 more that came out when that dog man hit the ground. So if anyone out there is trying to lay waste to these animals, you're making a bad decision.
Well, somebody's got a $2 million reward up in Oklahoma for Bigfoot. So
yeah, yep, they'll never get it. They'll never get it.
You see, I moved from that area and moved to Temple. My sister was still staying in my home, and my nephew started getting spiritually attacked by something there. But I went back to that area just to help him out, because I'll go pray. I learned things from what I was going through, and one of the things I would do a lot is bless my home and protect it. So whatever was out there couldn't come inside my home. Mm-hmm. I remember I was going down the path. The sun was setting. I was in that path where I had the encounter. I was in the path on the way out. Well, I was walking down the path, and I heard something in the trees behind me. When I turned around, I seen something on the ground, and he had come out of the bushes, and it was low to the ground, fully extended, low to the ground, like the belly was almost hitting the ground. The hands looked like human-like, but it had light fur on them. You could see the body looked like a person, the legs looked like a person, but you could see the fur on it.
Yeah.
You could see some yellow, not yellow, black dots on it. But what was weird about this creature, it wasn't like the dogman that I see. What was weird about it was that his eyes were white, he couldn't see. And his ears, he had ears, and it had black in the ears, like a sonar sort. So what he was doing, he had his eyes were white, and he was going like this. Moving his head to left and right. And I could see the ears moving like it was using the sonar to see if we could see anything. And I was just standing still. I didn't want to move because it was so long. It was so big. And it's just moving his head to left and right. And his ears are moving. It's the black inside the ears, like the sonar just moved, like vibrating of sort. And I could see the white, and he just looks, and it goes into the woods. but I never moved because I was afraid that he might catch me in the sonar.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen. But this creature resembled a person. That was weird about it. But it wasn't a person. It looked like the body of a person, but it was bigger than a person, and it had fur on it. But the face kind of looked like human-like, but the ears wasn't human. The ears were pointy, and they were right here on the side, and it had black in the ears. I just don't know what it was. And I seen it when I went back. I seen it still walking in the woods, low to the ground, but I don't know where it went to. The only thing I can think of that this creature probably lives underground because he couldn't see during the day. So he might have come out too early from where he was hiding, and maybe he hunts at nighttime. I do not know, but that's what I've seen. I just wish I could have. I had the camera in my hand, but I was afraid to take the picture because of movement. The way what I was seeing, how it was acting, it was just searching, move for something to move or into its sonar. So I didn't move, and that was the last time I ever went into that area. I haven't been back. I moved to Temple, Texas, and I've been here in Temple, Texas. When I first moved to Temple, Texas, I moved to an apartment complex. Well, they found me, man. They found me because the only reason I know they found me is because it pissed on my damn door and it pissed on my car again. It urinated. I recognized the stench.
Wow.
I was staying on the second floor. So I said, okay, well, let me move again. So I moved to another house, right? I moved to another house and was there. And then one day I was taking my dogs outside. I have two German Shepherds. I took them outside to go use the restroom. And as soon as I took them outside, I hear a loud growl from on top of the tree. So as soon as I heard the loud growl, the dogs took up running inside the house scared. So I closed the door.
Right? So when these creatures were near, did you smell any foul stenches?
Well, that day that I went into the woods, I had a cold, so I couldn't really smell at that time because I had a cold when I went into the woods. But I have smelled the stench. When my cold went away, when it would come to around the house, you could smell stench from the urine. It would urinate on my doors and on my car. And I remember the smell sometimes. I could smell it in the park, the stench. What it would do, it will mimic. I mean, whether it was a Bigfoot or a Squatch, like I said, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, it could mimic voices. I have my friend that moved to Pennsylvania. That she had moved to Pennsylvania and she had made it to Pennsylvania. And say, hey, I made it. She got married and say, hey, I made it to Pennsylvania. And I said, well, I'm glad y'all made it safely and all this. So we hung up the phone. So I'm sitting there in the park because I was a spiritualist. I like to meditate and stuff like that. Stay spiritually grounded. So I'm sitting in the park, and then next thing I know, I hear my name being called from the creek, and it's dark. And the voice that's calling my name into the creek is her voice. My friend that just finished talking on the phone that's in Pennsylvania. I'm in Texas. And I was like, there's no way. And I was like, Bill, is that you? And then I hear, yes, it's me, Abe. He's coming out of the woods. And I was like, no way. And then I don't hear nothing no more. And then I hear her daughter's voice. And her daughter doesn't even live there no more. She lives in a different town. And she's calling my name because they used to go to the area to visit me. They would go there to the park and visit me. We'd be talking. So it was mimicking their voices. And they want me to go to the creek. But I didn't go. What I did is I got up and I left back to my home. I didn't stay there. But it could mimic voices. That's what when it was mimicking voices, what can mimic a voice? At that time I didn't know too much of what can mimic a voice. But there's many things, shapeshifters. So shapeshifter can take any form. So if you can take any form that can mimic a voice, So that's for the longest time I felt that I was dealing with a shapeshifter or a maybe a possible what do you call them? Skinwalker. That they can mimic voices. They can take forms of people. They can mimic voice, take forms of people, take form of any kind of animal. And what I mean by animal, dogman or even a Bigfoot. But then there's a lot of other things that can take forms of that, that we know of. I'm just glad that I moved out of the area because I couldn't take it anymore, guys. And I didn't. I didn't want my son to go through what I went through, so I had to leave.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
The only
Other
reason I was there is because I was buying my mobile home. You know, I wanted to pay it off, so I wouldn't have no bad credit.
Yeah. Other than you hearing voices being mimicked, did any of those creatures make any other strange sounds that you can remember?
Well, some of the other sounds that I would hear, a couple of the growling sounds I would always hear. There was banging of wood. I would hear banging of wood all the time. Sometimes they're throwing the rocks from the creek. They'll throw rocks into the park where I was sitting down. Um, uh, when they would come around the home, sometimes I would hear little kids playing outside of my house at our 2, 3 in the morning. They
Right.
were being kids, the voices of kids, you know, and it's like there was nobody out there when I would go out there. I go out there with I do the sign of the cross, and I go out there with my holy water, you know, and pray around my home. But some of the strange events that happened there, brothers, is when all
Yeah.
this happening at once. I would see this dark figures the shadow figures were going into the homes of some of my neighbors, and within like 2 or 3 months time frame, I lost 6 neighbors, and this is how I lost them. They were all died in their beds, and they were all that's what they all had in common. They were all found dead in their beds.
Yeah. Wow.
There was a man that inherited a house from his brother because his brother was found dead in the bed. A year later, he was found dead in the bed. Yep.
Was it the same? Was it the same bed?
In the same bed, yeah. And then the neighbors behind me, I lost the 3 neighbors behind me. They're all passed away. Like within a matter of a matter of like 2 months, everybody passed away. Everybody
Wow.
was dead in their and whatever it was, you know, whether it was like I said, I was looking at the different ways of like I would see this dark shadow figures going into their home through the walls, and I would try to warn them, you know, there's something like, oh, it's nothing. And then the people that try to warn, they all passed away. And I
Yeah.
was just trying to look out for them, you know. There was another neighbor that lived in the edge of the park, and he was always smoking weed. And he would tell me, "Hey, man, you be careful out there, man. There's something out there." I said, "What do you mean there's something out there?" He said, "Yeah, they come over here to my house." It's like, "What do you mean?" They stand right over there. They're like werewolves. They stand right there by the edge of my property.
Yeah.
He had like a target out there. He had a target where he had a bow and arrow because you know, I guess in the park you're not supposed to have weapons.
Right.
But he would shoot at he would shoot at him from a distance, trying to kill him. But he said you could hear him underneath the streets.
Yeah.
It's the streets. They have like a sewer, and it's pretty. I guess, probably like you could probably fit it down in there, like a person that's 5'10", 5'11", and he said he could hear him underneath the street.
Wow.
I never got brave enough to go look if they're underneath the street.
Yeah. That's a no for me.
Yeah.
Can you hear
That's
the
a
dogs
no.
barking?
Yeah. We can hear him.
Oh man, let me. Let me. That's right. Nobody's here right now.
But yeah, I've actually heard. I asked one of the guys I've gained the most knowledge from when I interviewed him was Old Bear, and you know, one of the questions that came up was, you know, how, you know, what are the most frequent ways a Bigfoot will travel. And his answer was any means necessary. They'll go through water. They'll go through a sewer. They'll go through woods. They'll go in between houses.
Yeah.
However they need to do it without being seen, they will do it.
In stealth mode. In stealth mode. That's how I travel. Stealth mode.
Yeah. And with these dog men, Paul can attest to it, and as of Tuesday, I can now attest to it because I went and filmed a 25-second video on my property this past Tuesday, and I was helping my dad pump out some water. I didn't have time to go back and go investigate. Well, I went back there on my 4-wheeler just to shoot a 25-second video to show Paul how thick it was. sent him the video, and about 4 or 5 hours later, he goes, "The jury's out. You know, it's there." And sure shit, you can see it. It was there, sitting there, right there, looking at me. In one frame, you could see the ears. Second frame, ears went back.
Yeah, they're out there, brother,
Yep.
and they're not afraid to come out during the day because I've seen them. I've seen the movement during the day too. They come out during the day, especially at night, but a day early in the morning,
Yep.
you can see you see them there during the day. You could, like I said, it's crazy. I just couldn't stand it no more. You know, especially when my house started getting attacked and invaded. I said it's time for me to move. You know, it's kind of like they knew where I lived. What I would do after they'll come and mess with my house, I'll go into their territory. You know, and I'll go pray. I'll start putting holy water on the trees. I guess I pissed them off, you know, or something.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do. That's all right. You want to come mess with my home? You want to come bang on my walls? Well, I'm going to your territory during the day, and I'm going to pray there all day. I'm going to put this holy water on the trees, bless the trees, and that's what I would do. So it was like a constant battle. I would go pray out there and do this to the trees because I didn't know what I was dealing with, and then
Right.
they'll mess with me at nighttime. So
Yeah.
it was crazy, you know.
Yeah, I actually caught a picture of a hand. This was back in like March on a trail camera I had in front of my feeder, and it was a cell link, which means that when it snapped a picture, it would send it to my phone. Well, that day I got that picture, I was out there and I left. About halfway home, I got a picture that showed my dad and my uncle at the feeder. Well, my stepmom fell off the truck, hurt her back. I guess they had left because she had called me about halfway home. "Where's your dad?" "Oh, he's still out there." So I guess she finally got a hold of him. Her and my uncle left, or him and my uncle left, and not 20 minutes after that, I get another picture as I'm pulling in my driveway, and it's a goddamn hand. And next to that hand, you can see a damn shadow, big mass shadow with two pointed ears sticking up.
Yeah, that's how they look like. They look
Yeah.
during the day. That's what exactly what they look like during the day. They look like shadows, and they're
Yeah.
blending into the trees. And I was fishing on the other side of where my counter. There's underneath the bridge. There's another patch where you could go fish. So I was fishing in the creek with my son, and then I seen him. I seen him right there. I believe it was an alpha male. It was during the day. He was standing by the tree and he was looking at me, and I was like, "There wasn't a person." And then he walked away from the tree and back into the woods. I could see him walk. And
Yeah.
I said, "Son, grab your fishing rod. Let's get out of here." You know, it was during the day, and I left the area. I didn't want to be there because what I seen wasn't a person. It was something huge. You know, it was looking at me, like letting me know, "Hey, this is my property." Now, when I went back there, because my sister lives, I have family that lives in Killeen still.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the area. Now they have that certain area where I seen the one looking at me. When I was fishing, they got all that fenced up now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somebody bought the property now, but they got a fence on it now. It's protected now. It says no trespassing, but it's there. That creek runs all the way to Belton Lake, you know, and I believe that that's what they hunt. They're hunting the deer, and the creeks, you know, the water. There's fish and whatever goes. The deers go drink the water from the creeks, but the creek goes all the way to Belton Lake, and that's a lot of land, a lot of trees there. So I believe they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Here
I got
in
I
Texas.
got a question out the chat. Antonio, he joined in a little late. He's in the UK.
Yes.
He wanted to know what you think about them being natural or supernatural.
And that's what we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I was trying to make the point of
I
that.
believe there's both sides. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe they have abilities, just like
Yeah.
we have abilities.
I've seen
I
this.
believe they're both.
Seen
They're supernatural. They have supernatural abilities, and they have the supernatural ability that they have. They could turn into that beast. It's which people see, and they have the ability to, when they're turned into that form, that they can pick up something and throw it at you. They can make contact with you when they're not even in that form, they can make contact you, and you're getting hit by an unseen force.
Yeah.
But if it's hitting you, that has ability to send you flying 5 feet. Then they're ain't going to send you 5 feet unless there's a tornado or a hurricane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe they have many abilities. It's something real, and it's out there. The only thing about all that is it's not about not giving it power, man. Not to be afraid, because that's what it thrives on. It wants you to be afraid. You know, man, and once you're afraid, it wants to take more dominion over you, and it'll keep on coming towards you to see if it could. The more power you give it, the more it's going to show itself to you. And that's what's
Paul,
happened to me. It was kept showing itself to me because I was battling it, so it was showing
yeah.
showed itself to me. And
What's your insight on that, Paul?
I've all my pictures, I've probably got 50, 60 pictures, real good ones. All of them's in the daytime, so I don't. Yep. I don't. Like I told you, I think. I don't know. I've seen their scat, and I just noticed the other day with this new technology that we're using out there that they have gnats swarming their face just like a dog or anything else would in the summertime. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They seem. Now listen, they do have some supernatural abilities or something. Their movements are faster than our eyes can comprehend. The color of their fur, the color black that they are, it's just another color that we don't know about. It ain't on our color chart for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Pitch dark black, and then there's the one that I believe is a female. Her fur is different. It's more of a brownish, reddish color that I seen that was traveling with him that day that they ran down the street. There was a brown one traveling with a black one. But I believe there's many that travel in groups.
Do you think like out there around the Indian, where Texas and New Mexico and all that, it's real thick with the Indian. You think that's got a lot to do with what's going on?
Yes, sir. I believe it has to do with the native land, that it might be cursed. I got a story to share with y'all. When I was going through all that, I was trying to find out answers, and I ran into a story where it was dealing with when the U.S. Cav soldiers were on horses. In this area where I live, I think the Cherokees were coming and killing the natives that lived in this area. The natives live in this area were woodlanders. They live in the woods, right? So they were killing. Well, they were killing families. So some of the families didn't want to die. So what they would do, they would form a circle, and they take their own lives. They commit suicide, right? So, but what happened is when the blood would spill into the circle, when the sun would rise, in the story, they said that the one would rise. So the one was a being out of the sacrifice of the people who rise from the circle, which had the abilities to shapeshift and use its environment into anything. It can use the environment to change into something, and it could shapeshift into anything within the environment, which is called they call it it's kind of like a demigod, and it's called the one. And there's a legend up here of this area. They said that the native, the calf soldier, that I can't remember his name, but that he was looking for the natives because they had killed some Cherokees, and when they found them, they were eating the soldier. I mean, they were eating the kill, eating the Cherokee, the heart, and they were like cannibalism, a form of cannibalism. So when I read that, I thought about maybe they're in some kind of word like a shapeshifter or something. But the one was the one that would rise from the spilled blood. I had those little chicks for Easter. Well, I got into for my son, and they grew and they were little roosters. So I didn't want to get in trouble where I lived. So I took them in the cage, and I took them to a tree, and I put them on the tree, and I said, well, I'll come back tomorrow and feed them. There's a lot of wild critters out there. So when I went back to go feed them, they were dead. But the way they were dead is their heads were cut off. Like something cut their heads off of the roosters. Something cut the heads, and the heads were on the stick. I mean, on a rock. So what was weird about that is that when I got there, underneath that tree, there was nothing underneath the tree. It was just grass, right? So when I went back to check on them, they were dead. What I noticed was strange. There was like 12 trees that had grew underneath the big tree, but there was no trees there the day before. So to me, there's like no way that could happen. So what I did, I felt that it was like a sacrifice. The birds were like a sacrifice of sorts. So I grabbed my machetes and I chopped down these trees. When I was chopping down these trees, blood was coming out of the trees.
What?
Blood was coming out of the trees. All the 12 trees that I cut, blood came out of the trees. So when
Wow.
you talk about natives and cursed lands, and I was telling you about the one, every tree that I chopped, it was they were thin, but they were real tall.
Mhm.
Blood came out of every single one of them. Yeah, and I felt that they grew out of the blood of the something wasn't right with that. I could feel it. So I destroyed the trees, and it was something that I till this day I cannot explain. I wish I could have recorded it, but my son was with me, and I didn't want him to see. I just felt that I had to destroy those trees, and I destroyed them because there's no way a tree's gonna grow in one day like that. That not that tall. They were pretty tall, and you know what's weird about it? That the size of the trees were kind of like the size of the dogmen that I see. That tall. They were pretty tall, but I cut them down from the very bottom, and blood was coming out of them. That's
Wow.
why I'm thinking that this land might be cursed, and in some kind of way, that's why sometimes I talk about shapeshifters or skinwalkers. And this incident, I'm sharing it with you. It happened, you know. Yeah, I wish I would have known people. I would keep to myself a lot
Yeah.
to well, what I was going through. I was dealing with so many things that that's why I see it in many ways. I just can't see it at once. When you experience chopping down 12 trees and every tree has blood in them, what's really going on? What's causing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, and that the Indian burial grounds and all the Native American history, I believe in that too.
You could
For one,
hear
for one,
drum
where
drum
yeah,
beats at that time coming out of those woods. You could hear
yeah,
the drum beats coming out of the
the
woods.
the the property I have and where it's at, there's an old company town that used to be there with 300 houses. Now it's kind of like a HOA type houses, but nice houses. Well, my dad lives out there. The property we have is not far from it. And I found out a few months ago that entire place was built on an Indian burial ground.
Yeah,
Well, after digging even deeper, I've had a few people come across that used to live in that town that had encounters. I had about 4 people come forth in about a week and a half. Found out there was a book written on this town about encounters that have happened in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And there's been other encounters that have happened. My sister has had 3 different encounters of something out there, 3 different creatures.
yeah,
It's a weird place, man. There's an old sulfur plant there, and there's a river, a reservoir from the sulfur plant that's butts right up to my property, and then there's a even bigger lake about a quarter mile northwest of that, and it's just riddled with water, riddled with woods, and strange shit happens there all the time.
yeah.
I've caught orbs off the trail camera plenty of nights. There's been a figure seen riding a bike down the road that goes by. There used to be an old golf course there. There's been a figure seen by 5 different people riding a bike at 2, 3 in the morning. And when they go to chase it, they can't catch up to it.
Yeah, there's uh, there's been a lot of witnesses or a lot of people that have encountered this shadow figure. I had a friend that had got in a flat, and it was at the bar playing pool. It was pool league night, and she said, "Can you fix change my tire?" Say, "Well, change the tire, just give me a ride home because I was with a friend that I should pool with." So she drove me home. We parked in the side of the house, and I was gonna get off, and all of a sudden she said, "Oh my God, there's somebody behind us." That's what she said. You look into the rearview mirror. There's somebody standing behind the vehicle, And then when I'm looking back like this and I'm seeing it standing behind the vehicle, she said, "Oh my God, there's somebody in front of us." Then they were all around us. There was 4 of them, right? So that's around the time frame I was already going through. I had already gone through a lot of things, and things were settling down. So I say, "Look, when I go outside, I want you to go." So when I got off, I started saying the Our Father, and as soon as I started saying the Our Father, the one that was down the street, it took a fast, boom, down the street. She backed up, started going. I was saying the Our Father, praying. Next thing you know, she calls me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you tried to hit me off the road." She said that when she was going to the main street, came and hit the back of the vehicle. It hit make contact with the vehicle, and it tried to knock her into the ditch, to a little ditch. But she made it out of there, and she said she was never going to come back to where I live. But they're there, and I believe is this. What I seen down the street is the same thing that I seen that fell off the tree behind me. That's how it looked to me. So, yeah, it's a lot of there's a lot of land here. Like on Fort Hood, there's what do you call it? Where they have the towers. There's a certain area where they say we're not allowed to go on there because that area is a native. What do you call it? Native grounds or holy. What do they call it?
Sacred.
Yeah, sacred Indian burial grounds, and they were not allowed to go there. And I don't know. There's a lot of land where they're building homes and stuff like that. That's what that was, and there's a lot of people that have experience. When I had moved in Heather Glen, my first home, I remember it was this little girl that I was seeing. She was walking into when I was asleep. I could sense somebody, and I could see this girl walking in there on my bed, crawling on my bed. It's like, oh, it's just my imagination. Then one day I seen her walking in, and I could see her eyes roll back, like she had drowned or something like that. And
Right.
she scratched me on the back, and I woke up and I said, "Oh, it's just a dream." So when I go to the kitchen, I'm drinking some water. My sister's in the kitchen. It's like, "Hey, what happened to your back?" And I had 3 marks down the back of my back.
Oh, that ain't good.
Wow.
So then one day, I was still living there, and I went outside. It was nighttime. My neighbor was just smoking a cigarette. He was like this real fast. I said, "Hey, if I tell you something, you're not gonna think I'm crazy." I said, "Sure, go ahead, shoot, man." He's like, "You know how I built a new den? My garage is a den now. Well, I went to go get a glass of water. And when I walk into the den, there's a little girl sitting in the middle of my den. She's wearing a brown dress, and her eyes look rolled back like she was dead." Well, that's the same girl that was going to my house. I sold that house. I got out of there. But behind the house, there was woods. We found out that there was a cemetery back there, so it could have been activity from the cemetery that was built up in the back. But yeah, here in Texas, there's a lot of in Central Texas, a lot of the land here. There's a lot of activity because it used to be native land. Some of the like in Salado,
Yeah.
people were digging, like trying to build pipes. They find bones or they find spears from the arrows and stuff like that from the natives who used to
Yeah.
live in the area. So there's a lot of that here. And some of that causes a lot of activity too.
Yeah, it
Uh,
does.
I heard a story from a pizza guy that he was delivering pizza by the lake, and he said, and I seen him. I said, "What'd you see, man?" He's like, "Oh, I seen that skinwalker shapeshifter." He said he crossed right in front of me. He was wearing his full gear. He was standing there. He had a mask. He was looking at me, and then he just crossed the path. I hear stories from people around this area. How they have encounters sometimes with his shadow people. Like I've had. There was another friend of mine that I guess he listened to the video of the episode 53 of Dogman Encounters, and he said that he knows I'm saying the truth. And I said, "How do you know I'm saying the truth, brother?" He's like, "Because I passed through the road that you're talking about." He said, "I know exactly what you're talking about." He said, "I travel that road every morning. I'm a trucker. And every morning that I drive through that path, through that road, I see them. They're standing right there by the wood line. They cross sometimes they cross in front of the path. You know how you said that they're real? He said he sees them. He said he parked because right beside there's a parking lot where they park the trucks so they can
Mhm.
come get picked up. Well, he said he was waiting for his wife to come pick him up, and he said that they attacked the truck and they were hitting the truck, but he was afraid to get out. But he
Yeah.
said that he believes me 100% because he witnessed it in the same area. Because the woods I'm talking about is right there by the main freeway. So he said he lives there in I believe he lives in Copper's Cove. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to see maybe one day I could send him y'all's way if I can find him again.
Yeah,
But
most definitely.
the encounter he had, and he said to him, like Paul said there, or and like you say, he's seen them in the flesh. You know that
Yeah.
they're real. He didn't see them in spirit form. There was a homeless guy that lived underneath the bridge, right? And then we had a corner store called Mickey's, and I had gone over there and I seen a homeless guy by the air conditioning unit, and he said he used to live underneath the bridge. He said that there's something there. I said, "What do you mean there's something there?" So yeah, he said, "Well, I was laying down in my sleeping bag. And I guess he was homeless with his wife, and then him and his wife were laying in the sleeping bag." And he said, "And I seen them." I said, "I seen the beast." I said, "Well, what do you mean the beast?" "I seen them. There were six of them. I seen them standing in the creek." He said, "They were real tall, and I seen the beast. They're beasts. That do not." I had. That's why I moved over here. He said he was scared to shit. Then he was afraid they were going to do something to him. He
Yeah.
wouldn't move out of his sleeping bag. He had a little tent underneath the bridge, but he said he seen them. He said they're he called them beasts.
Do you know about how big those were, the creatures were that were at the wood line? Did the guy ever say how tall they were?
He just said they were big, but the one it's got to be the same ones that I've seen. They're massive, man. 10 foot, 9 to 10 foot. I think the younger ones that I've seen that they're running during the I was seeing them run during the nighttime. I think those were like 7 footers, 8 footers, but the alpha male was huge. It was massive. I think the other ones were younger ones.
Yeah.
But they're there. It's just I always tell everybody, hey, if you want to come check it out, I would always invite people. I invited some people that came to the area to investigate, and they got attacked. Some of them got attacked because one of the person that came was a Wiccan, and he said that there was something evil there, that he could do this or that, or close the portal. And I was show me where it's at. And I took him, and next thing you know, it goes in there, and he gets dropped. He gets attacked spiritually by a bouncing force. So I had to pick him up and carry him out of there and take him to his
Wow.
vehicle. There was this other girl that she said that she could do something. She went there, and I took her to the area where I seen the alpha, and it was nighttime already. And she was there not even 5 minutes. She said, "Oh my God, oh my God!" And she took us running out of there. And as she's running, this big old red orb is chasing her.
Yeah.
So by the time I go out to the exit of the woods, she's just laying on the ground, and she's got bumps all over her face, all over her body. So I have to pick her up and take her, and she was never the same. I never heard from her again, or even from the Wiccan guy. I never heard from him again. I don't know what happened to them.
Imagine that.
There
Yeah.
was another
Right.
guy. He seen me outside one night, and he's like, "Is your name Abe Sias?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "You're full of shit." I said, "What do you mean? You telling my little brother that there's some kind of monsters over there and all this is creatures? You're full of shit." He was drunk, and he was in the army. He had just come back from the Iraq war. He said, "You full of shit." I said, "Take me to where their son of a bitches are. I don't believe you." And it was nighttime. It was like 2:30 in the morning. So I'm looking at it. I said, "Man, I don't want to take you over there. You're drunk. You're gonna be easy target. I'm not afraid. Take me." "Oh, you're full of shit." I said, "All right." So I took him. I sat down by the swing set. I said, "Look, there's an area right here." I said, "I'm not gonna go there." I said, "But that's the area right there." And he's looking at there. And when he's looking at the area, he hears a woman laughing out of the woods. Right? I hear her. He heard her. He said, "Who's there?" So I ain't afraid of you. So he starts taking off his shirt, took up his pants, took up his shoes, raises up his hands. He said, "I'm going in." So he starts walking through the tree line. "I'm going in." Next thing you know, you hear him screaming. You're like, "Ah!" And he's moving like this. He turns around. He's bleeding, man. He's bleeding from the neck. He's bleeding from the wrist. He's bleeding from this arm. He's bleeding from behind the knees. He's bleeding from the ankles. He grabs his clothes and he takes off running, right? Running out of the park. I see him 2 weeks later, and he says, "I have to apologize to you." Said, I'm sorry for disrespecting you. I thought that you were full of shit. But you know what happened to me? So when I was in Iraq, I tried to commit suicide. So whatever is there knew what I tried to do in Iraq. So I started bleeding from all the areas I tried to commit suicide. So all those areas that he was bleeding from that night, it was areas where he tried to commit suicide when he was in Iraq. But he apologized to me. He apologized to me, and he never went back to that area. That happened at nighttime, man. At like 2:30 is he was coming from the club or something. But it happened, you know. I just wish, that's what I tell people. Like the things that are happening right now with the controversy with some of the sites that the competition wise that they're trying to compete and stuff like that, and there's so much anger that's happening amongst the sites. They could say like maybe you might be a liar, or I might be a liar, or I might be full of shit. If they have activity the way they do, and they go into this area that I'm talking about, they will get spiritually attacked, man. I'm being honest. That they will get dropped in there. That's why I always tell everybody, you got to prepare yourself, because you can have a 45, you can have a shotgun, you can have a rifle, but you also got to prepare yourself spiritually. You got to be ready spiritually because you don't know what you're dealing with.
Right.
You might never know. It's going to be like surprise, What if it's a surprise? And there's so many creatures we can talk about, right? There's another creature that nobody really talks about because it's from a long, long time ago that nobody really talks about that he might have disabilities. But I want to tell you, when I seen the one that I seen on the ground that I told you about, the first thing that came to me was an Nosferatu, man, a vampire. Yeah. That's what I thought when I seen this creature. Because when I was moving from my other house to this house where I'm at right now, I was loading up the stuff in the back of my vehicle. We were getting the last of the last things. Something happened in the sky, man, right above me. It was like around 6 o'clock. It was cloudy. I seen a giant bat-like creature. And I'm gonna say creature because it's bat-like, the wings of a bat, but I'll say creature. And it was flying around me in a circle. And it was making this noise. The noise it was making, it sounded like a gorilla of sort. It didn't even sound like a bird, right? So as it's making this sound, there's two more to come, and they come and there are three flying around me. So my wife, we were newlyweds. I was like, babe, come out here. I want you to see this. They're flying around me, and as I called her to come outside, they started flying away. So she got to see them as they were in the distance. But when they were close up, flying up right on top of me, man, they were massive. They didn't look like no bats to me. That's why I call them creatures. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now, man, that I believe is unexplainable. We talk about portals, and I see somebody made a comment about aliens, and it could be many things, but there's so many things that are unexplainable right now.
Yeah.
It would make sense to me, if they have abilities like this, like we don't know like about the Nephilim or the disembodied, what the abilities they might have, but we create them with part angels. So what if they have abilities to maybe possibly fly?
Yeah.
That's why they land on trees or they fly overhead. No,
I hate to go. I'm going to have to go in about 10 minutes.
All right, guys. Any closing comments, Abe?
The only closing comments that I have is, I've had so many spiritual things that happen to me, and I look at all perspectives. But out of everything, is the one thing that I learned is you have to maintain yourself to be a certain way. You can't get angry or use anything like that, because those are openings that if you're angry, like, you have a weapon, you start shooting at something, anger can attract something else, and you have to be careful when you're out there, because you might not know what you're dealing with, just like I didn't know what I was dealing with. And until this day, even though I might have seen a dog man or this other things that I've seen, I still don't know what I was dealing with. So
All right.
and there's a saying, curiosity to kill the cat. Well, I don't want to be the dead cat, you know.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's why I stopped pursuing it because I didn't want it to get power over me. So I stopped pursuing it. I mean, there's times that when I pass through the area, I want to go check it out still, you know, but I don't need to do that right now because
Well,
I
I
live.
mean, if I don't ever pursue them again, I still got to live with it. So, I mean,
Yep.
Yeah. You have no choice because you're in the land. I had a choice to move. Once I
I
paid
mean,
my
not even
bill,
that. Just in my mind, like
this is what happens to me a lot, brother. It's like to control your mind in some kind of way that I could be here. It happened so many years ago. It's kind of like a form of PTSD, right? Because you experienced it, and it's like it wants to lure you back into that location. Like it wants you to come back. It wants you to go back, you know. And it's kind of like if you have a how do you call it? Like if you feel like the urge of drinking beer or you have a habit, well, that's how it is. You know, it wants you to go back into that area for some reason.
I've definitely embraced it. So,
Yeah. Just got to be careful.
Paul,
it is,
anything in closing, Paul, before we got to let you go?
no, sir, man. He covered everything really good. I mean, I don't know a lot about the spiritual side of any of this, but I know who to go to if I ever do.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you something, brother. I I felt they shoved me off a cliff and I almost died. I was in the hospital for I was in crutches for 4 months, couldn't walk. But ever since that fall, I learned about minerals, man. And there's a lot of minerals that protect you from negative energies. And I can help out in that. Maybe we can talk about it one day.
Yeah.
Like some of the ones I collect minerals also now, and I do the spiritual work. But there's minerals that have energies so negative energies can come and attack you. You know, it'll protect you, and that's what I do.
One of the largest limestone deposits in the country is right here in Kentucky.
There you go, and that's it. Limestone attracts a lot of activity, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There was limestone in that creek where it lived by my house. There was a lot of limestone. Yeah, it attracts all that. That's why you hear voices and all.
Yeah.
Well, if you look, take a recorder next time and just put it there. Sometimes your device just stop working because it drains the energy off your battery.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. One thing I will say, I'm a firm believer to going in the woods. I do carry. I will always carry. And if it ever comes that I'm spiritually attacked, I know who to get a hold of. But to me, the research has brought me to flesh and blood, and that's where I'm at right now. And with that, if you're a researcher, go out there, get the evidence. Don't exploit it all. Don't post it everywhere. Keep it to yourself because you never know where that might land you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And be humble. Take pride in what you do, and just be 100%. And that's all we can ask from everybody.
Well, I mean, the only thing worse than saying you've seen a dog man is saying you've seen a dog man disappear.
Yeah, exactly. All right, gentlemen. Abe, thank you for coming on, man. It was great to talk to you, man.
Thank you guys.
Turned out great.
For letting me on and talk about that. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Yeah, Paul, brother, thanks for hosting with me, man. We'll do it next show. We'll talk tomorrow. I'll get to work on what we talked about here in the morning. I stayed out of the property too late today, but I'll jump on that in the morning and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, buddy.
God bless y'all, guys.
You too, Abe. Y'all take care, gentlemen, and I will talk to you tomorrow, Paul. And take care, Abe. I'll keep in contact with you, man.
All right.
All right, brother. All right, everyone. Good night, y'all. Thank y'all for showing up. New Carlito, dude from Texas. Thanks for moderating. I appreciate y'all. Good night, y'all.